Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Today we have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into these topics, starting with a new Marvel game that's being led by Amy Hennig. This was announced not that long ago. We don't know too much about it, but something we are learning is that apparently the level designer that worked on God of War Ragnarok is now working on this game. This is coming from PlayStation Universe, where it says Elizabeth Wright, the level designer for Sony Santa Monica Studios' God of War Ragnarok, has revealed that she's joined up with Skydance New Media to work on the new Marvel video game fronted by Amy Hennig. Wright will be serving as senior level designer on the new game, which is still in the early stages of production. In addition to working with Sony Santa Monica, Wright had also enjoyed stints at Respawn and EA Vancouver. So I thought this was worth covering because something that a lot of people are paying attention to, specifically Uncharted fans and PlayStation fans, is the fact that this upcoming Marvel game that's going to star both Captain America and Black Panther, and it's set in World War II, it is being led by Amy Hennig. And obviously, you know, she is the creator of Uncharted, and she's very well respected. So this is something that I think is worth maybe keeping an eye on, right? I know some people feel like maybe it's getting a little too much with like the superhero games and whatnot, but you know, I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see more of it, and it sounds like they are starting to attract some serious talent as well. So let me know your thoughts on that. Next up, I just want to let everybody know that the PS5 update, it's a native PS5 update for World War Z Aftermath, is here. It's called the Supersized Horde Mode XL update, and it's worth noting that the PS5 upgrade is free for anybody who owns the game. And what this is going to be adding is not only everything you would expect with a PS5 upgrade, obviously improvements in visuals, frame rate, all that, but this new Horde mode is trying to do something that I don't know we've seen before, at least on consoles, where they're saying that certain hordes you're going to face in this game will have over 1,000 zombies coming at you at one time, which is absolutely insane to think about. And it does make me think a little bit about Days Gone, right? Because when we talk about something we loved about Days Gone, it was those massive zombie horde fights. That was, I think, the highlight of the game. It's unfortunate the game isn't getting a sequel, but we were kind of wondering, you know, with the PS5 and with, you know, this current gen technology, what could be achieved with those horde modes. I feel like maybe this is kind of the closest we're going to see to, you know, just seeing something absolutely insane. So wanted to let you guys know about that. Moving on, we have a pretty significant update when it comes to the Xbox Activision deal. I figured I would just let you guys know about this. Reading from PlayStation Lifestyle, it says the Microsoft Activision deal has taken yet another bizarre turn as the Xbox maker subpoenaed Sony to help fight its FTC lawsuit. You read that right. Microsoft wants Sony to divulge PlayStation Studios' video game pipeline so it can fight claims that Sony would be harmed by its acquisition of Activision Blizzard. As reported by game developer via N4G, Microsoft wants Sony to reveal the scope of PlayStation's game production so that it can challenge claims that the acquisition would harm Sony's revenue and future console releases in the event that popular games like Call of Duty become Xbox exclusive. According to legal documents, the subpoena was served on January 17th with a deadline of January 20th for a response, but Sony filed for an extension that now gives it until January 27th to either respond in some capacity or move to squash the subpoena. At the moment, both parties are in talks. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that we talked about going into 2023. This deal and everything involving it, whether it's with Microsoft, Sony, anybody else involved, more things are going to happen. Crazy things potentially are going to happen. And this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is something Microsoft's doing. I gotta be honest, I'm not really sure what Sony's gonna end up doing here, but just hearing this, it sounds kind of silly, right? Like just hearing that Microsoft basically wants Sony to come out and essentially reveal, I don't know if I want to frame it as their secrets, but I feel as though I kind of have to frame it that way, considering it's definitely not something Sony wants to actively talk about with Microsoft. I mean, this, you're talking about things that Sony has worked on for decades now when it comes to their pipeline and how they produce video games. Something that has been built through experience, blood, sweat, and tears. And it's just kind of funny to me that Microsoft is basically like, yeah, we're going to need you to tell us all the details regarding that. Basically give us the secret sauce, the secret ingredient, however you want to frame it. It's pretty strange. So I'm going to keep my eye on this, and I'm going to let you guys know what ends up happening, because, Sony has a very small window here to decide what they're going to do, and, how they're going to respond to this. And when they do, I will definitely let you guys know about it. Moving on from that, though, we have an update for PSVR 2. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners will be receiving a free PSVR 2 version. Reading from Gaming Bolt, it says Skydance Interactive is celebrating the 3rd anniversary of The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, its acclaimed VR horror title based on The Walking Dead. It also revealed that those who purchased the title on PlayStation VR can download it for free on PlayStation VR 2 on March 21st. This also applies to those who claim the game for free on PlayStation Plus, as confirmed by the game's official Twitter account. As for the sequel, The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution, it launches on March 21st for PSVR 2 and on Steam, along with the Standard Edition, the Payback Edition, and the Deluxe Edition. So, yeah, I wanted to let you guys know about this because we are getting closer and closer to the release of PSVR 2, and you can tell that, some developers are just really excited about it and doing some great things, and I feel like what we're seeing here with this free upgrade, especially considering they're including the free PS Plus version, this is great. So let me know if this is something that you're planning on upgrading to or claiming if you're planning to buy PSVR 2. Next up, we're talking about Forspoken once again, and it was apparently put through its paces when it comes to Digital Foundry with a new analysis. This is being reported on by Push Square. They say, as usual, the wizards over at Digital Foundry have broken things down for those of us less mechanically minded. First, the good. Forspoken features incredibly fast load times. Booting into the game from the title screen is about 4 seconds, and less than a single second if you continue an existing save. Add to that the fast and fluid character and gameplay animations, truly impressive particle effects, detailed character models, and insane hair physics, and it's clear that the Luminous engine still has some juice left in the tank. On the flip side, lighting takes a significant step back, even from developer Luminous Productions' last outing, 2016's Final Fantasy XV. Frame rate also leaves a lot to be desired, maintaining 60 FPS in performance mode for the most part, but bizarrely dipping well below 50 in certain areas of the open world, in addition to resolution scaling as low as 720p. Quality mode cannot maintain a consistent 30 FPS either, and while it certainly looks impressive, it can at times drop down to 20, a state of affairs which Digital Foundry describes as simply absurd. And they do also mention the 40 FPS quality mode, something that is available. The article doesn't mention it, but I did watch the Digital Foundry video myself, and I think that's the mode they ultimately recommended if you're able to do so. But, I thought that this was worth covering because Forspoken is a PS5 only title, and I think you can clearly begin to see the difference between a PS5 exclusive that was developed outside of PlayStation Studios versus what you would expect from PlayStation Studios. I think that there are some really good things here. Like they mentioned, the load times are insane. I mean, less than 1 second is awesome. A lot of the, character animations, the particle effects, right? It looks really good. There are a lot of things about Forspoken that I do think on the surface look pretty good, but hearing that it's really struggling this much when it comes to performance, and hearing that it can at sometimes somehow dip down to 720p, that honestly, that's kind of insane to me. I can't believe that's actually true. And here's the thing. If you're somebody who's playing the game and you're enjoying it, we all know that, these things ultimately take a backseat. Gameplay is king. But it's still, I think, a little disheartening, right? When we entered 2023 and we know that this is going to be a big year for PS5, in general, and PS5 exclusives, I don't necessarily think that, this is what we were hoping to hear. But again, it is worth noting that this is, this is on Square Enix here. This is not necessarily on Sony. I think that we would be having a very different conversation if like a first-party PlayStation studio like Insomniac or something, released their game and was having issues like this. It would be a very different conversation for sure. But I figured I would let you guys know about this. Let me know your thoughts. Moving on from that, we have an update, a good update when it comes to The Last of Us HBO. This is reading from PlayStation Universe, where they say HBO's The Last of Us has been, at least for PlayStation fans, a highly anticipated show. Now, the number of fans for The Last of Us is seemingly expanding at an astounding rate thanks to the show. Not only have sales for the game, both the PS5 version and the PS4 remastered version, risen astronomically, The Last of Us had the largest increase in viewership between episode 1 and 2 for a drama in HBO's history. A report from Variety reveals that combined Nielsen and Warner Bros. Discovery data shows 5.7 million viewers tuned in for episode 2, a 22% increase from the previous week's 4.7 million. And on top of that, episode 1 has now been watched by over 18 million people, and that's up nearly 4 times from the debut night. So this is absolutely huge for The Last of Us HBO. And, I gotta say, Sony and PlayStation Productions and Naughty Dog must be feeling very good right now, because this is something that, as we've talked about, and we will continue to talk about with all of the PlayStation Productions projects that are in the works, that could have went very badly. It could have went south and basically been a disaster. And to see that not only is it not that, it's the opposite. It's doing tremendously well. Fans are loving it, and people who haven't played the game are loving it, and it's doing incredibly well on HBO. Very good stuff. I will be sure to keep you guys updated. Moving on from that, we are talking about an interesting topic once again regarding The Last of Us, and how apparently we almost got DLC that featured Ellie's mom. This is reading from PlayStation Lifestyle, where it says Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann has revealed that the studio was once considering The Last of Us DLC featuring Ellie's mom. Apparently, the DLC almost happened, but things fell apart. Speaking to Variety, Druckmann said that he's excited for Ellie's mom, Anna, to show up in HBO's The Last of Us TV series later on in the season. Original actor Ashley Johnson will portray Anna. Quote, I had written a short story after we had shipped the game already. It was supposed to be an animated short, but it fell apart and didn't come to be. There was a moment where we almost made it as DLC, but it fell apart, end quote. So this to me is very interesting because, we haven't actually seen Ellie's mom in the game, and they're making room in the show to allow this to happen. And I gotta say, I think it's absolutely awesome that they got Ashley Johnson to play Ellie's mom. This, to me, is going to be like a standout of the HBO series. And yeah, it would have been very interesting to see a DLC like that, but just wanted to kind of let you guys know about this and get your thoughts on it. We're moving on to the final topic, though, which talks about the new PS5 model that's going to be launching this year, the PS5 Pro, and believe it or not, the PlayStation 6. So this information is coming from the reliable insider that we've talked about many times here on the channel, that being Tom Henderson, and he put out a string of tweets, which I'm going to read to you. He starts by saying, on all of the PS5 Pro/Slim rumors, I don't think it's a Pro or a Slim. My understanding is that it's just Gen 2 of the regular PS5. The normal PS5 will cease production at the end of this year, and the new model will start in April and begin selling in September. He continues by saying Sony wouldn't cease production of the Gen 1 PS5 if they had different consoles in production for different price points/specs. The new PS5 will reduce costs in production and shipping because they can just produce one console with a detachable disk drive. As for if there's going to be a Pro version this generation, I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't feel like the regular version has been fully utilized yet, and probably won't be en masse until the end of the year. All I can say is that I've heard more about the PS6 than a PS5 Pro. One final note here that he makes is he says, as for the new PS5 look, basically he says it looks like the old one, or at least he thinks it's going to look like the old one. He doesn't think there's going to be any radical changes, to be honest. Now, he doesn't make it clear, like, did he see that? Was he told that? That just seems to be speculation on his part. But, What we're basically hearing right now is that what Sony's doing with this new PS5 model is what they've done in the past, right? Like what he's calling Gen 2 of the PS5. I feel like this is kind of what Sony has always done, where a couple years into the life cycle of a console, they release a updated version of it essentially. It's the same exact console. It does look different, but it's going to ultimately, have less components in it and be easier to produce and help Sony save money while they are producing them. I'm beginning to think that this PS5 model that's coming out this year is going to look very similar to the PS5 we have now. In fact, I'm actually beginning to think it's just going to be a smaller PS5. I wouldn't be surprised if it looks almost identical. That would be something that I think actually would be in line with the way Sony handles things these days. So, you consider that they're releasing the DualSense Edge, they're releasing PSVR 2, and there seems to be like a coherent design philosophy between all of the PlayStation 5 products so far. I don't think this new model is going to look drastically different. And I think they're not even going to call it Slim. I wouldn't be surprised if the reason why it's called a Slim is because that's what we're calling it. That's what we end up calling it. But officially, I don't think that's what it's going to be named. Now, as for the PS5 Pro, I got to say, this is something that I already know a lot of people in the comments are going to say that it's just not necessary right now. We've hardly seen the PS5 fully utilized. And I have to say, at this point, I'm in agreement, right? I'm in agreement with this notion that it's just not really going to be necessary. If we do get a PS5 Pro, I think the biggest problem with it is it'll come so late and we're going to be so close to what we would consider the next generation with the PlayStation 6 that anything Sony decides to put into the PS5 is going to take away from the PS6 will ultimately be. And here's something very important that I think we have to take note of. It's going to be very difficult for Sony to properly differentiate the PlayStation 6 generation from the PS5. It's going to be harder than it ever has been in the past. It was already hard for them to do so with the PS4 to the PS5 due to the law of diminishing returns. That's going to be amplified with the PlayStation 6. So I think that alone is going to ensure Sony does not do a PlayStation 5 Pro. The final thing I want to say here is that Tom Henderson does not divulge anything that he's heard about the PlayStation 6, simply saying that he has heard some things. So I really do have to wonder, what exactly has Tom Henderson been told about the PlayStation 6? And I wonder if he's going to end up sharing that information at some point down the line. But there you go. That's the latest information I have for you. That's going to do it for the video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you did find it informative. If you did, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.